Yeah, the only thing about spreading people out is they don't all make it on YouTube. So if you guys want to be on YouTube, or when you speak, maybe get closer to each other. I have Eric, but I don't have half of Monica or Michelle.
Yeah, when we sit up for their Charlie's ears, we get on over there. Don't let it interrupt you, but softball has given me a date and time. If you could check it, I have it right. The 8th of November. It'll be after their next board meeting. Okay, what time? Between 3:30 and 3:45 he'll arrive. Okay. We're gonna take him on probably for 7. So that's a good thing, I can call him back and check. Yep, it works. You got one call, you got it. We'll figure it out.
My dad used to just point at us and be like, "You."
I don't remember your name.
That's the one. He bothers our name so many times. Hey, I'm Ethan. My brother's name's Aaron. My other one's Ian.
Holy God.
And my brothers are stepbrothers, right? Or one of them fell out. So they're like the same age, and we were all teenagers at the same time. So eventually, my dad was just fried, and he was like, "You, here."
Did you say like 3 names all in a row?
Yeah, that's what I mean. You go through a list of names, and then Fred, the one I'm looking at.
We have that same thing. We've got N's and G's.
Oh yeah.
I was always nicknamed Monica.
We don't let that clock. Alright, call the meeting in order. You can rise, pledge the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sarah, could you take roll call, please?
Ms. Cook?
Present.
Ms. Falco? Here. Ms. Hassler?
Here.
Ms. Kunkel?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Polinsky?
Here.
Mr. Stout?
Here.
Mrs. Stout? Here.
Alright, thank you. So before we get into the budget presentation, I'd just like to ask everybody, let's hold all questions to the end. Make your notes on your copy, write down your questions, we can circle back and have a conversation. I just want to let that go through smoothly so everybody can take in the information. And the same, I would ask from our visitors, please. With that, if we're ready, I'll turn it over to Stacy for the presentation.
So, Mary Ellen, there is a budget above the agendas at the end of the table, if you'd like to grab one.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so in case the public is not familiar with how borough budget or municipal PA budget is structured, we have a general fund, we have a sewer fund, we have a water fund, we had a pool fund, the state funds are usually called either state fund or liquid fuels fund, and then a number of other funds that the Borough of Topton just doesn't use. So each is an independent fund. It's supposed to be sustaining in and of itself. Water, the rates for water should sustain whatever bricks and mortar infrastructure, employment, benefits, all of that within the fund. They're really called enterprise funds. Same with sewer. Same funding comes from the rates. General fund comes from taxes and other fees, other taxes. So you try not to mix the revenue funds into water and sewer and keep it to the general fund, but general fund may supplement sewer and water, but it doesn't work the other way around. So in this budget, you may see increases either to a real estate tax, a water and sewer rate, another tax, LST, EIT. But that is all to try to balance that funds budget. Boroughs need to balance their revenues, must equal their expenditures. Based on what we see and forecast for 2024, this is what we propose and estimate to be the 2024 budget as a whole. So if we want to take it one fund at a time, if you're not familiar with Topton, all of you are, we supplement fire with a tax on the real estate bill. We also supplement in the ambulance corps with a tax on the bill, and then the real estate taxes are the general fund's main source of revenue. The police department that covers Topton is both Pennsylvania State Police as well as 40 hours of Fleetwood Police under an agreement, a contract, a multi-year contract. In terms of our buildings and properties, our properties include our watershed off of Woodside and our water plant, both located in Long Swamp Township. We also have our sewage treatment plant off of Pump Lane, Park Ave area of Long Swamp Township. Our public works building that we also call our maintenance building or our shop is on Keller Street at 44, and that was the original Borough Hall. And then we have this within our park area. This is Borough Hall, and our park surrounds Borough Hall and includes the pool property as well. There are little bits of property throughout the borough that we also must maintain, detention basins, 2 of those within the borough property to maintain stormwater management, and we must maintain them. So what you'll see is a little bit of us talking about our staff as well as maintenance, and then infrastructure, development, and capital improvements. So if we want to start with the general fund, what's been proposed is a total of 1.9 in revenues approximately, and the same in expenditures. We had trouble paying things because all costs are going up, whether it's wages for some of the contractors we contract with, or materials that we have to purchase, or just general equipment maintenance of the equipment that we currently own. Everything seems to be going up, not just the obvious stuff like fuel and chemicals for water and sewer. So there is incorporated into this a 1 mil increase in the real estate taxes. For 2023, it was 6.4 mils. For 2024, it's proposed at 7.4 mils. Not much has been added as line items to the general fund budget. It pretty much covers what it did cover last year. Some items that needed to be added under expenditures is we found that one property that is no longer habitable needs also attention by pest control. So therefore on page 6 of 14, Health and Human Services line item has been added. That probably is one of the main things that has been added, in addition to a line item here or there. I put in postage for the Planning Commission and supplies, because now we're heading into a joint comprehensive planning goal for the future, and that probably will involve some communications away from our own building and our own groups in town. That's the main change in the general fund. Like I said, it's not a lot of additions. It's pretty much status quo. The elimination of the TASA project, since that has finished in 2023, will not contribute to revenues nor will it contribute to expenditures in 2024. Then we move on to the water fund. Similar here, not a lot has been added generally across the board. We hope to have a permit that is approved in 2024, so we hope to be able to replace our media filters in the drinking water plant itself. We did replace valves this year and pumps at the plant, but hopefully no more will need replacing. We hope that our small water sewer grant application is reviewed by the state in 2024. We never got results in 2023, but have not included it in this budget. If that would occur, then we would have to have a match of over $62,000, which is not included as an expense in this, nor is the revenue until we get approval on a grant. I did include a little bit of a change in the rents proposed for industrial and commercial. We'll go into that a little bit later as we explain that. Moving on to sewer, same thing. We'll explain a change in commercial and industrial rents. We hope to start and finish the pump station at Washington Street, which services approximately half of Topton, and the major contributor over there are the industries, so it's very important that this gets done, and hopefully will get done by the end of spring 2024. We've had it floating in our budget for the past few years until it was approved to get done by DEP. We're still waiting for permit approval. Same here, I mean, chemicals, although we were under budget in expenditures this year, we will not attempt to do that again next year. We try to adjust what we use at the wastewater treatment plant to save money, but there's also compliance issues that we need to maintain. Therefore, chemicals for next year are still going to be budgeted at $100,000, and that's one of the large expenditure line items in wastewater treatment. There is no money put into the escrow for reed beds for doing that in about 5 or 6 years. We just did it last year. We should plan ahead and put money toward that, but at this point, with this proposed budget, I did not see the ability for us to even put money away for that. And then across all three funds, this year we would like to invest time and money into upgrading and changing our accounting software, billing software, payroll software. We found that it's very difficult to work with, it's incorrect, and it's not up to auditing standards. We were unable to even get our audit performed for 2022 due to a lot of glitches and time management issues, but hopefully it will improve having new software and being able to flip a switch practically to get certain things done, especially our billing. So that's a big investment in the first year in 2024, but then the licenses for across the three funds will be lower for 25 and forward. Didn't want to go into much detail, but that's it in a nutshell. It's very similar to last year, so.
So what does 1 mil equate to?
It's still approximately 78,000. It's a little over 78, maybe 78.5 at this time.
The translation in property tax increase for 100.
So I think Monica worked on that, and like for a value of a house of 150,000, is that what you based on?
Well, I have 7,500 and 150 here for 1 mil, and this is on your assessed,
Not
your tax bill, not what you would go to sell your property for. $75,000 would be $75. That's per year. 100,000 is 100. 150 is 150. That's 1 mil. That's what the increase would be per year. Other figures.
So in terms of revenue, that's the answer that I gave you, Elaine.
I'm just looking to see what people could expect an
Okay.
increase in their taxes.
Yes,
So-
I just did the breakdown that way.
So if you
If
have
I'm
an
between
assessment of
here.
75,000, your taxes would increase by $75
Correct. Per year.
per year. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any specific questions? Thoughts?
You said, the software would be less in 2025 and going forward, do we have any feel for how much less?
I can get the quote and show it to you, but the startup costs are expensive because of
You gotta buy
transferring
everything
data
first,
over.
then you pay the license.
And then the license and support after that on an annual basis.
Okay, thank you.
But it's about total, if you added up all of the line items for water, sewer in general, it's between $40,000 and $45,000 in 2024.
Okay.
And then after that, it's approximately 20
So maybe.
across the 3 funds.
Thank you.
The rebids, how much were we looking to put away for that?
It cost $58,000 between our staff, renting equipment, doing their, hauling by bid. I assume it's going to go up, so maybe $10,000 a year for 6 years, or less than that if we extend it out 7, 8 years.
Could that be added as from the general fund?
It could, if you'd
Right,
like to
that's
do
just
that,
hidden.
that's a choice, yes.
Because one of the things I did wanna point out is that Stacey has about 14,000 planned for, essentially special events for 2024, but with what Elaine's been able to work on, and I think some more development in that, that's an area that I could say we could cut, money to put towards the rebids.
Well, there's, are you talking about the 20,000 we had that we didn't use? Is that what you're talking about, the 14 out of?
No, the 14 that she has budgeted for next year,
For what? For special?
for special events.
Where is that? No, I didn't.
It's under the general fund.
I thought that was at 5,000 that I saw on there.
It's under Parks and Recreation.
And it starts on page 8, sorry.
Yeah, so 452-200.
Park activities?
Yeah.
Which line?
Park activities.
It's a gray line, but it's
Yeah, so 14, that's 14,000?
It includes the parks.
And that
YMCA
that
program.
represent, what does that represent? That represents the YMCA program, which is how much of that?
6,500.
That's 6,500. And then the balance of that would be for what?
What we put on.
Okay, well, we didn't use any of our monies this year for that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at.
Right. And we had, last year, we had 20,000 in the budget that we did not use for any special.
We had 14,000 in the budget last year.
And is this the same 14,000 that was in the budget last year? We didn't use.
Well, it's
line item.
theoretical at this point, you know what I mean? It's a concept, it's not like
Right.
actual
Right, but I'm just saying,
14,000.
we didn't use that,
Last
so
year.
we have a balance of 14,000 of that money.
No, we used 11,322.
Well, we used it only for the Y, we didn't use it for special events.
We've used $11,322.80 to this point. Of the 14,000 from last
Right,
year.
but none of those were for special events, because we got donations for the special events.
So it didn't come out of general fund revenue, it came out of donations revenue.
Right.
It still had to run through our books, therefore the expenditure is in the year-to-date column.
Okay. So it shows here, but then it shows a credit from
The donations received,
donations.
correct, in the revenue
But how are you gonna move money if people are donating for that purpose then? So you can't,
Donations, after speaking with Joan, the donations have to run a little bit differently.
yes,
We can't just collect money from them. We're gonna, basically, we wanna put together the special events, look at what we wanna have there, and then ask businesses to sponsor them, so that the,
right, that's what I'm saying. So we can't steal Peter to pay Paul if those donations were going to the specific purpose, right?
yes, the money would either have to be returned or used
Right.
towards a special event, but going forward, we wouldn't be collecting it in that manner. So the budgeted amount, basically, we'd be running, if we decide to go forward with the YMCA again this year, I'd be proposing that we're running on almost zero money for special events, and we'd have to go about it by finding people to donate time, build something, come out, do something, sponsor the bouncy house if they wanna have a bouncy house, that kind of thing.
So, you know, I was raising, donations to fund all of our special events this year. And, I feel it was very successful to do that and not use any taxpayer money for the park events. We actually have a surplus, or at least we did a month ago. I think it was $2,100 remaining in that account, so that we only have 2 events, which is Halloween, which we just did that in conjunction with the school, and we have a Christmas tree lighting ceremony. They're the last 2 events for this year, and there should be no taxpayer dollars that are needed for any of those events that we hold in the park, provided we continue to get donations and ask for those across, you know, the different businesses in the community. And it was my hope that any surplus we had that we didn't use, because we had a $20,000 anonymous donation, which was in our budget last year, that number wasn't used for anything that we needed for special events. I would actually like to see that donated money that we have, that should still be in the.
The issue there is that we're not actually allowed to collect donations.
No, we were given a $20,000 stipend several years ago by an anonymous donor.
For 5 years, 20,000 for 5 years, which ends,
Right,
which has now
right,
ended.
it's now ended, but we didn't use the 20,000.
It went toward the park, that's how it was designated by the donor, the anonymous donor.
Well, it didn't have strings attached, it could have been used for anything that with the park.
Park related.
So it could have been used for events, but we used it for what, for maintenance, or did we not use it?
No, we used it across the board for whatever
Whatever
was needed in the park.
Okay. Cause it was my hope that that money could be held and used for improvement in the park, moving forward, but, you know, it was used for that, and so be it.
Well, we went and collected money for the park events, so we either have to spend it on the park events now, and we should have done that in a slightly different manner, but, so I don't think we can just add it to another fund.
No, to use it for the park, you know, I mean, but I was hoping we could use that for capital improvement in the park rather than for like expenses for the park. But that's okay, I just putting it out there.
We had vandalism in the park, that kinda cost us money too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, not as much, we have cameras too. So.
Any other specific questions? I know that 2 representatives of the planning commission are present, and another line item that is new for 2024 is the joint comprehensive plan. Did you want to speak to what is in the budget and
Sure.
what it's for and?
Sure. So we had met a couple of weeks ago with Berks County Planning Commission, Long Swamp Township, District Township, and Pike, Rockland. And so all the representatives kind of came together, talked to the county about what the plan was going to be, how it was going to roll out. And it looks like an 18-month process. And the county had given us 2 basic cost scenarios. One would be if Long Swamp Township would join us in the plan, which would reduce the cost across the board for everyone if the county were to assist us with drafting the plan. And then the worst case scenario would be if Long Swamp would not join us, then it would just be spread 4 ways. The other element of that is the anticipation of a MAP program grant, which comes through DCD, the Governor's Office for Community Development. The anticipation is from the county, and I did speak to somebody from that office, from the Lehigh Valley office, that there's $1 million of grant funding available right now to be applied for. And if Long Swamp were to join in with the plan, the chances of getting that grant are really, really, really good. They can't say 100%. I know you've all experienced PA small water, and you know how long that gets kicked down the pipe there, but we can expect that there's $1 million that we can apply for in January, that we would find out in April if that would be the effect. If we got the grant, maximum grant would pay for half of the cost of the county. And what we had done some calculations on that. The county would charge us per quarter. And on a worst case scenario, say Long Swamp would not join us and we got 0 grant funding, we're looking at a total of cost per municipality is $11,500. That would be broken up over 18 months in quarterly payments. So if we were to estimate a start in 2024, that would be 2 quarters, which comes out to roughly just under $4,000 for 2024, if that was the worst case scenario. If we got the grant, the per quarter goes down to $1,000, $1,400, and the 2024 cost would be $3,000. Obviously, the 2025 cost would be twice that amount because you got 4 quarters in there. But I think what we had originally proposed for the planning commission in total was, I think, $4,500. I think with everything we were looking at for next year, if the worst case scenario were to occur, that we would have to pay that $4,000, we could forego the solicitor's fees and the engineering fees because we're ad hoc. I think this year we had one issue that may have needed the solicitor and the engineer, but we didn't even bring them in at that point in time, and those costs were covered under escrow. So really, our solicitor engineering fees were really almost 0, except for, I think we had bylaws written by Joan, and that was like $500. So we barely used the budget for that stuff. And the planning commission has never really had to have a budget for solicitor and engineering when it comes to those ad hoc land use things. So we could take that off of the budget and handle the cost of the 2024 cost for the plan. Another thing that the folks from the state said is how the process goes is Borough Council would sign a letter of intent, basically saying we were going to go into this plan, and the folks from the state said we could write that letter of intent with caveat based off of funding. We can go into the plan if we're going to get funding. If we don't get funding, we can come back and say we got to figure out what's going to happen, because if this is a very large expense, that we would want to consider that. So that's another option. So that's basically how it would work with the plan and the budget.
And this is on page 6, just in case anyone wants to.
Yes.
Thank you.
So what's our total number to be a part of this, the comprehensive plan, to continue to be a part of the comprehensive?
Worst case scenario is at 11.5.
And
For 2024, the double for 2025.
No, in total.
total,
They're charging a total price for the plan itself. It's about 36,000 if it's the 3 of us.
That's for all. That's
And
all
then
three.
it jumps up to 40 if Long Swamp's invested, but then that's split between the municipalities that are in there.
well, Long Swamp originally got out of that plan because they were taking on all the development and growth with no investment from the other municipalities in infrastructure improvements and the costs that they would incur to do that. So that's why they originally got out of it several years ago. Topton is completely built out, and we don't really have any growth we can really do, other than maybe modifying our zoning. We should probably have a discussion on whether, you know, what the pros and cons of benefits financially and maybe not.
Well, we have to have a plan to some extent, we have to have a plan.
It expires like in 2025.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And then
It has to be redone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the demographics are from 2010. It's like.
Yeah, I remember,
very
it's been
outdated.
years, I can't remember all the data, but I was involved in the comprehensive plan many years ago. And I just don't know how much of a benefit we, as a municipality that's already built out, are really gonna gain from it.
Well, we have to put something together.
Right. So I'm
When we
just
go to
saying,
apply
it
for
might be a
grants,
good
it's,
discussion to have
if we
another
don't
time.
have it at all, you might as well not apply for grants at any level.
Well, if we
I laid
get
out my
grants-
concerns about it in an email to everybody. I don't think the county's a good ally. And I don't see anything that's changed as I read through the plan from 2014, anything that's changed. If that's the plan, honestly, we just need to update that with new dates. Because we didn't approach any of it. I didn't even hear about it until it
We
came up.
have got redone the zoning ordinances post that being implemented too. So all the stuff that pertains to Topton is incorrect in it. As far as the residential R1 district.
Right, but I mean, all the goals they have for us are still the same goals. You know, we spoke about, we can get our part of the plan is a Main Street program to help develop more business. That's exactly what they said in 2014, and the statement is, you should go to PCED and talk to them about a Main Street program. Okay, I know that information now. I don't need to pay any money to hear it again. I think the money should stay in the budget because I don't know how much of a problem this is gonna become, but, I think we should certainly explore our other options. Long Swamps has existed for the last 10 years and they didn't need it. And honestly, you know, if ours was intended to boost our economic development, I watched business after business close in this town and nothing came in behind it. So, I don't know how good that first plan was for us, you know, when we got it.
I just think it might be a good conversation for us to have as a council on, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Because you're talking here, I mean, the end number here, is this total number 27,000, the number for all the community development total in our budget? That's a big number. I just think that we need to see if it's, I mean, if we can get some grant money because we're involved in this, but the numbers have to work. I just think it's something we might want to discuss in more detail. We've been a part of this comprehensive plan for many years now.
I'm reading through it, and honestly, I think we just get a boilerplate nonsense from them. You know, I don't think they actually take into account what we need or what our challenges are, or what our goals are. They just write down, oh, you should do this because that's a good idea. I don't think it's worth paying. I mean, I'm reading through it and all I see justified is salaries.
Right, and I don't wanna get too far into the core need of this, but also need to take into consideration that that plan was written by a consultant that the county paid for at the time, so that you're having a different group of people writing it. The regional comprehensive plan deals with multiple municipalities. Yes, we are built out, but the benefit that being built out is we have all the residential, high-density residential that these other communities need. Because everybody has to plan for a certain volume of that, so that's where we do fall into that category. Our needs aren't in land use. Our needs are, we need grant money. We need to upgrade our infrastructure. If you look into that plan, and there's check marks off there that talks about transportation, there's not one box in there for goals and objectives that for Topton.
Right.
And we know that that's different. So those are the elements that can change when we work together to write this plan. Then we take that to the state, then we take that to the feds, and we explain to them, this is where we need our funds to go. This first thing the feds are gonna say when they give you money, FEMA gives you money, or you're gonna get money from EPA or something like that. Is that in your plan? Is that information in your plan? That's where this kind of centralizes. So that's the benefit of it. But yeah, I mean, if there are other potential avenues we can take, I'll be glad to entertain and review it and advise on it. So I would think The next meeting that the county wants to have with the groups is in December. So if you wanted to make this a borough council discussion, we'd be glad to come back and talk about it, and then, you know, report back to them in December what the decision will be.
How many years have we paid to be a part of this comprehensive plan?
There's no payment. It's like the county will help you rewrite it and you pay your portion of that. If you were to do it as a regular comprehensive plan through a consultant, they would pay you would pay, you know, much more for just a local comprehensive plan and at a consultant's rate. Looking at the county rates and being a professional land planning consultant, comparing the rates of what we would charge a client, they're much lower. Obviously, they have intern power, they have all that, they have government power that's paying for them to, you know, supplement their salaries. The other benefit to the county plan is that it's basically a not to exceed. So that cost will not be exceeded. If a consultant writes this plan for us, they're gonna come back at the end, wow, we 25, 30, 60 hours over time and expense. So that's another benefit from this, you know, so.
Well, I'd like to see what Long Swamp spent, what kind of cost they.
Sure.
You know, they just did this.
Mhm.
You know, the last decade that we were involved in this plan, they did it all on their own.
Worth
We're
looking at.
wondering how
Steve
much,
Wyke was the one that really spearheaded the getting out of that plan for Long Swamp, because he didn't see any real benefits to it.
Well, it doesn't matter who
I mean,
initiated it, I just wanna see how they pulled it off.
yeah.
Because I just, everybody who comes here from the county, I get zero faith in them. You know what I mean? They can't answer my questions, they dodge my questions, you know, like,
Right, yeah.
if you're gonna come and you're gonna sell me something that's gonna cost $40,000, no, do your research.
Sure.
Know where you're coming, you know? It's fun to make a joke like I have to come back in the daytime, I get that stuff, but, you know, when I ask you specific questions and you give me vague answers, why would I pay you to write the plan then? You don't know anything about this place.
Right, well, and you also gotta take into account that this is a committee-based thing, the committee is based off of our representatives and the municipality's representatives. Nothing goes into that plan that we don't recommend to our governing bodies. So the council could, you know, they could say, you can put a spaceport here. We'll be, no, we're not putting a spaceport here. It's gonna be the communities talking to the county about how to do it, and the county's gonna basically tell us what, you know, we're gonna tell the county what to write. They're gonna provide the data, the GIS work, and the GIS work is very expensive. That's the most expensive part of that plan, is that mapping. And so that labor is also, once again, you have a consultant doing that, it's labor intensive. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there was some of that discussion that was an elevator pitch. And you know, it was very high level. And I think if we get into it, and Laura, who's the main professional that would be working on that, would give us a much better picture of what that would be. So, yeah, I can understand your concerns. We can also see with the county, what do other regional plans look like that they've developed? Like, what's the product that they're actually putting out? That might help too, help us understand that as well. You know, because then you get a real picture of what the quality is, so.
Thank you. I would like to know when that meeting is in December. If you could keep us posted on that meeting date.
Sure, we got offered tentative dates yesterday, so we'll work on that.
Well, I think that's generally us telling them how we all feel, right? Maybe, so we have to discuss it before then. Because we're supposed to be, you know, and so does the planning commission.
I just think we should have a conversation. It's a big line item here. And if we can get the benefit out of it, it might be worth it. And if we don't get too much of a benefit out of it, it might not be worth investing in. I don't know, I'm just bringing it up for discussion, moving forward.
But for budget, go ahead.
I'm wondering how much benefit we have received from our,
Well, that's something we'll have to
Investments so far.
discuss.
Let's, yeah,
That's all I
and
wanna
we'll,
get
as Leo pointed out, we'll get into the meat and potatoes of it at a separate time, but.
You wanna keep this in the
But
budget.
keep it in
For, yes, for right now,
Okay.
as you guys see, it's 57.9, I think,
That's what,
Yeah.
yeah.
for the comprehensive. plan.
5,790.
I think that should stay in there, because they don't wanna eliminate it and say, no, just on face value, we're not doing this, but, I do think that we should explore our options. Alright, is there anything else in particular anyone would like to talk about?
Or in general,
or, yeah, just,
not like
We're
based
gonna
on
have to
like,
talk about the rates for water and sewer.
okay,
I mean, based on the budget, they're more than double what they are now
right, for, commercial and
for
industrial.
commercial and industrial.
Yeah. One of the things I'll point out about that is that, since the year 2000, Borough has not operated without a loan, or, well, I don't know if we ever cleared any of these, and then there was a couple years maybe in there that we didn't have a loan on this, but we've been taking out loan after loan after loan for the sewer system. That's why we haven't had to raise rates, because we just keep putting ourselves in debt. Rather than, you know, as Stacy was pointing out, the rate should be self-sustaining of the system. Rather than doing that, we've just been taking on loan after loan. And large. How does everybody, I know we've discussed that the rates needed to be balanced a little bit differently, shifting things more towards, well, how they are everywhere else, where commercial and industrial pays higher rates than residential does. Any comments, thoughts? I know, Michelle, you're closest to this.
I'm just concerned there's gonna be some sticker shock and any money that's donated to the borough is gonna disappear. I mean, not that that's that big a deal. I mean, 10 grand or whatever it is in comparison. to
Yeah,
what
balancing
we-
that is much more important.
Yes, yes, but I'm a little concerned about the blowback if we jump it more than 100% at one shot.
What do you think we should increase it by?
Well, the problem is we have to balance the budget, so, you know, if we don't though, how are we gonna balance it is the question.
where would you cut the expenditures then if you're decreasing the revenue that's in the proposed budget?
That's just it. Cause there really is no fluff in the water sewer accounts. And one of the big changes is we don't have as much of this is the end of the ARPA funding, the 60,000 that's in here, that's all there is, that's the end of it. There's in previous years, the last couple of years, we've had a lot more of it to help supplement those two accounts, and now we don't. I don't have a good answer, by the way. You know, I mean, we have to balance the budgets and we have to have the income, but at the same time, I am concerned about more than doubling the rates for commercial and industrial. Granted, I don't wanna touch the residential because the residential is higher.
No, and
Then-
we raised everything last year,
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
you know,
We did 20% though. Going 100+% is gonna be a much different.
well, yeah,
situation.
I mean, I think you were looking to go 30 last year, because that would've fixed it, we cut it down to 20 just to soften the blow.
And we were hoping to get monies too, to offset that. You remember, we were hoping to get some grants and some monies for the,
Keller Street and
and.
Barclay.
Well, yeah, but that's all still just in limbo, like, until we get the grant, it's not getting fixed.
Washington Street was one of the grants we were hoping to get, which.
Which we did
Washington
get.
Street, we did get, yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
no, I
something
hear
that
you.
washes itself out, but,
Yes.
I mean, there just is no fluff in there.
No.
There just isn't. I mean, the accounts themselves, there's just not that much there. I mean, it's basically employees and then running them costs. You know, chemicals and equipment and even some of that is, you know, cross your fingers that nothing
Something
major
doesn't
happens.
break, yes, exactly.
And, you know, we also have to look at this, the wells is
Yes,
starting, you know,
and we didn't have
Well,
that.
yeah, we have the 130 in there for,
yeah.
now granted, I mean, not that I want this to happen in any way, but we could find out in 2 months that property is no good and
And
Yeah, we're on hold.
it'll push the expense, yeah, but we're still gonna
It'll
have to,
still be
we're still gonna have to
eventually,
address it. So this is, this is the situation we're gonna find ourselves in at some point, whether it's this year or next year, the only,
And the only other revenue thing that we've looked at is the logging, but most likely that money, even if we start that process now, there's a good chance that we won't see that money till 15.
I know it doesn't
Or
always
25.
come in one, you know what I mean? You may
Exactly.
find 12 different buyers or 20
Sure.
different buyers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're getting this, that, this, that, this, that. Overall, it turns into this, you know, It's
We
also-
we talked about it, and most likely we wouldn't see any
Yeah.
income from that in 24,
no, I don't think so either.
even if we start that process now.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And again, that's not a sustainable thing, you know, I mean,
No,
it's something
yeah.
that we should be doing. I don't know, I'll go on the forester's best experience, but I would say probably 15 years or so, you know, that they would go through. It's not
Sure.
a yearly thing.
Well, the
so.
hope is that that would help us, you know, maybe build the well at some point.
Yeah, fix some things,
Or
contribute to things, yeah.
whatever, but, you know, and the sewer, that payment is not gonna go down until 2026.
Right.
2026, it'll be half of what it is in 24 and 25, but that doesn't help us now.
No, but it does, putting this into effect sets us up that when we do clear that, we're in a better position,
Mhm.
you know, and we can
Hopefully put some money away and not
fix some
have
things
to,
ourselves, put
Yeah.
money away for the reed beds, have
Yeah.
these things under control so that
Mhm.
we're not always under debt.
and hopefully not
I mean-
need to get a big loan right away.
Yeah.
So we can, yes, agree.
I mean, we're, you know, there's certain things we're always gonna be dependent upon grants and,
Sure.
you know, funding up sources, but
Mhm.
I agree with you that
Yeah.
it's harsh, but.
Like I said, I don't have the answer, I am concerned about the blowback though. If we did that much of an increase at one time, but if we didn't, I have no idea how we'll bridge the gap.
You had stated in a previous meeting the disparity compared to what they do residential and either commercial or industrial, like in Allentown or
Mhm.
someplace. And it's like more than double, triple someplace, with a whole lot. I don't know that that's gonna make them feel better, but
No.
it's very obvious that we're way out of line.
Oh, no doubt. The question is.
There's
this-
certain businesses that are gonna completely understand, you know what I mean, because they operate in other municipalities where things are, you know, balanced, like we're proposing here, so they're not, but there's gonna be some here in Topton that are much smaller businesses that it's just gonna be a huge increase to their expenses.
Especially some of the commercial.
Yeah, and there's just, yeah,
Mm.
Where do we fall in line with other municipalities and their cost for supply that we're gonna charge? We're still lower, aren't we?
The rates
Our rates are still lower than other,
for commercial and industrial, way lower.
yes,
Wait,
way
wait, wait.
lower.
Wait.
For residential, the opposite.
Well, that's because we're small. We don't have the.
Yeah, but even for places the size of ours, we're high on residential.
well, I mean, that's a balancing act, right, if we can figure this out and get it running smoother, we may be able to bring down residential rates, you know,
Yeah.
or rates in general, if they're just
Yeah.
balancing out.
Well, that's why I said this is the conundrum. We have to be able to balance it and cover everything. There's nothing fluff in here to
Yeah.
reduce, or even in the general fund for that matter, if we had to for a short period loan money that way. But again, I'm a little concerned about of doing it all at one time, but I don't know that we have another option. So
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer.
I would love to, I mean, but that would be the easy if we could, right, I'd be like, oh, we'll just, you know, we'll put a staggered,
Yeah.
you know, this much this year, next year you can see a little bit more, so that over the next 3 to 5 years, you see it come to fruition and get to the number, but what do we do in the meantime? I don't like it either, but
Yeah.
it'd be,
I mean, if somebody has a creative
Yeah.
idea about it, I'm all ears,
we
but
got
I
a dozen or so
I mean,
folks
I've
in the
looked,
room right now.
I just don't
Don't have
see
another
where,
answer for it.
yeah.
What's the percentage of increase, over 100% increase? Do you have, is it?
Well, I mean, I can only base it on what 23's budget was, $45,020 for, commercial, and 2024's is 93,000, well, that's well over 100%. Now, I don't know what the actual will end up being, but. Yeah,
I don't like this one, but I don't have
Yeah.
another one.
Would you be able to do, let's say it's gonna be 100% increase, 50%, like the first half of the year to ease them into it, and the other 50% the second half? Do you know what I mean? I mean, even though it's gonna be the 100% over the course of the
No,
whole
because
calendar
you still need to
year.
make up what you didn't make in the first
Your
6
first
months.
Yeah.
So you'd have to be 50% and then 150%
Yeah,
to do
that's
it that way,
okay.
you know what I mean? So you're
I was
seeing
just
it's
trying
just,
to ease them
Gradually.
into it, yeah, gradually get them into it. I realize you're gonna be losing like 50% the first half of the year, but it would ease them.
I mean, even if something like that, it's still, like you said, it's gotta be the same number at the end of the day, so
Yeah.
no matter how you run it around, it's, if we get too creative with it, I'd start to feel like you were trying to trick me with something.
Yeah, that's true too.
Alright, I guess that's that on that, I suppose. I mean, you know, obviously we still have time to discuss this is our first, you know, so it's something that we should discuss and see if we.
Somebody, one of us can come up with something creative.
Yeah, I mean,
in
you know.
a couple weeks.
Next,
So-
yeah, in the next month.
Yeah.
We have this agreement with the home.
Yes.
And how many years has this amount stayed the same, Dave?
It
So
doesn't
that-
matter, we can't renegotiate it till 2033.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
I just,
I read through it before we started,
I
that
didn't
was my
have
first
time
question
to
too.
check, that's what I was looking for, fine.
So that will have to be done, but there's about 10 years before
10
that's gonna
years.
be discussed.
I didn't think it was
And
that
that only
long,
helps on the sewer side too.
but it's
Right.
something,
Yeah,
right?
it is something, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it needs to be addressed, just like everything else needs to be addressed, but they got 10 years on the contract, so.
Could we at least approach them and say, with the inflation, they're aware of inflation, and, their usage is not going down?
We can ask them, but if I was locked in for another 10 years, I wouldn't renegotiate with them.
Would they
Right, I
consider
wouldn't even bring it up
renegotiating?
either, no, I didn't realize.
Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, we could ask, but it would be bad business of them to do that.
Yeah, there's no benefit to them, why would they?
It would just.
Right.
They're part of our community, and
Well,
Surprising, there's not like a step up
there's still a business
clause
though.
in there.
Right.
yeah,
5% a year,
yeah.
whatever.
Most
A lot
of
of
the
stuff that
ambulance
surprises me about
service
it, so.
was to them, and they were of no assistance with them when.
I'm sorry, Monica, I
They
didn't
were-
hear the start of that.
A lot of the ambulance service is from
Yeah.
them, and they were approached for assistance, and no, so. Right. Just had a question about when it was built. For that.
Does anybody in the audience have anything else?
So the next steps are, we have to put this on display as proposed. Sorry, Monica, yes?
Well, yeah, it was an afterthought, I don't wanna say it, but, I mean, we should have done the tax thing last year. We didn't, only option, don't wanna do it, but 1.5 versus 1. But I wouldn't like to do that.
And we did the water bills was our increase last year.
Yeah, but we were still behind.
Well, we bounced.
Well, the 1 mil balances it for this year. I mean,
It
if we
does,
went any
yes,
higher, we're
yeah.
trying to
Try not to.
generate revenue for another purpose.
Maybe for capital improvement.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
Right, to
if-
put money away.
Which is what we
Right.
should do. But you're talking about when someone has a $200,000 assessment, their taxes are increasing $200 this year.
Yes.
That's a pretty steep jump.
1.5,
$200 on a
$200.
$200,000 assessment?
Mm.
A $200,000.
I didn't even bother going that high
Like a
for here, then I don't think
$570,000 home.
we need to worry
You know
about
what I
it.
mean, that's, $200 is not a lot of money.
I don't know about that. I mean, there's a lot of houses in Topton that have assessments that are,
Yeah, that are
In the 200.
12 to 20 years old, and in the last 3 years, their market
that's
value
added
has
to
jumped
what they're
by.
already paying. So I just.
I don't know, sorry.
well, I have to do
Did that for
from
what?
1 to 1.5. It would go, and this is based on 75,000, 100,000, and 150,000. It would go from 75 to 112.50, 100 to 150, 150 to 225. Just saying.
It's,
I don't wanna do that, I get it, totally get it, I'm just throwing that out there.
I think we, also have to, as we're rebalancing I wouldn't wanna go any higher than what's needed in the taxes personally, just because we're changing the water and sewer rent, so that's all those commercial and industrial properties would see both. So, and we're already worried about what they're gonna say about the water and sewer. I think let's keep this is just my feelings, but I think
I get it.
let's keep taxes at what we need to make
Okay.
do for
No, I
now,
get it.
and we can
I
talk.
agree with you.
Yeah.
What's that?
I agree with
I
Ethan.
agree.
Yeah,
Either
I'm
one.
just
I agree.
One
saying
bill.
as a,
Yeah,
look at the difference. And that's like you said.
Yeah. All right, is there anything else on this evening?
So the next step for this is putting it on display. I just need direction or authorization to advertise this proposed copy to go on display for a period of 10 days in our Borough Hall office.
We just need a motion.
Just need
Yes.
a motion.
When's the last date that we would have to put this in for the, is that-
So mid-December is the most appropriate to pass the budget, so then if you do need to do a final meeting of council, I think it's like Christmas or day after Christmas this year, to do any last minute, I wouldn't push it like we did last year, that's just my personal opinion, but by borough code, it must be passed by December 31st.
Christmas is actually on a Monday.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, I saw that, that's right. The second meeting in December would be Christmas. So
Yes.
That's not happening.
We came in the day after Christmas last year.
Yeah.
yeah.
Cause it was Monday,
Mhm.
last year, day after Christmas.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to advertise this,
I'll
put it on
make the
display.
motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed?
And then our next two meetings are November 13th, and then if council so chooses, a second meeting in November if it's needed on November 27th, with final discussion on December 11th. That's the plan, but that doesn't mean you cannot meet on the 25th. Or the 26th, if you want to advertise it like that. We did have it's not on the agenda, but it's just for information for the community and council. Larry Wurst came in about the mini museum having so much activity in November that it would miss the November 13th meeting. So he just wanted to remind everyone in the community that things go on in November, especially around Veterans Day, where he does his presentation at the middle school, etc. So that's why you do have a copy of this report early.
Well, then if nobody has anything else, let's be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you all for coming. Tomorrow at 5:30, is John bringing pizza tomorrow?